All right, we are live. Hello, folks. Another late night stream. Partly because I was actually doing a class. So I was doing the Coursera deep learning specialization, and I was so close to finishing. What class was it? Convolutional neural networks. And like I just wanted to finish it. And like I looked at I was having this weird bug where like it would run, but it would also error out like crazy. And I was looking at their solutions and basically like not the problem solutions, but the like, oh, how did we fix this bug? And basically, the course organizers uh, were only buying a certain number of like clusters, and they didn't have enough money to keep getting more. So if you signed on at peak times, like you couldn't run some of the problems. So it was pretty funny. Yeah, so basically it's just like, okay, let me write code and then like try to run one cell. If it doesn't work, reboot it, and then if it does work, then just like finish the exercises or do as much as you can. And like, yeah, so it started working, and I was like, all right, let's just roll through this. Um, and then it didn't upload the right version when I was done, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm finally done. I got a shiny new certification. So that will go, I guess, on LinkedIn. And I think I have like one more class in the specialization. And then I can stop paying for Coursera. So that's great. And honestly, that's all I really cared about was like I subscribed to Coursera on a monthly basis, and it was costing me a lot of money and I wasn't using it. So now I'm like, okay, got peer pressure into actually doing it for a while. So now I'm like, okay, I should actually finish this up. And I guess it looks good on my whatever, so that's fine. It's win-win-win. um, yeah, so what are we gonna do today? Because it's late, I'm not uh, super enthused to do a whole lot of stuff. And also, since Pretzel is apparently acting up and not displaying things properly, you may be able to hear it. I'm realizing that on the VOD it mutes because it's got music playing, so I don't know how well this is gonna go. But yeah, let me think. Hey Uslot, nice to see you again. I just did I don't know how long you're here. I just did a summary of like what I was doing and why I'm starting late again, even though I keep saying I won't uh, uh, start my streams so late. But yeah, how are you? If you'd like, I can repeat everything. That's totally fine. I haven't really got started anyway. Only been running for 5 minutes, and I think 2 of those were the welcome stream screen. Um, so yeah. What was I gonna do? Oh yeah, so I was gonna say like what the plans are for today. Um, they're basically just continuing stuff from last time. Um, yeah, so actually, yeah, I'll just review. I was starting late because I was doing Coursera. Um, so it was actually do I have this running anywhere? So is this? Um, and you can see this red error, and that was like one of the things I was trying to fix. Basically, like for this particular one, because it uses GPUs, they run into the same problem, or Coursera runs into the same problem that I guess like normal people run into, which is how do you allocate resources. And a problem I had was like the notebook wasn't really working, and it would give me some weird error of like you ran out of memory, and I was like, well, this is a notebook running in the cloud, so this is like 100% not my problem. So like, what is the way to fix it? And basically, the tech support people for the course were saying, well, here's how it works. We paid for a certain amount of cluster of compute, and turns out when a lot of people are signed on, we don't have any more allocation. So the only way we can make sure that like people I guess do this correctly and that other people can use it, I'll actually demonstrate. um, when people are working through the notebook, when they're done, they have to go and like close and halt. So this is actually a very good lesson, because if you start doing stuff in the cloud and you're doing things in notebooks, so say SageMaker or Google Colab. I think Google Colab does the same thing. SageMaker, if you're still running the notebook server or the Jupyter server, that they charge you for that because it's like technically powering it. So even if the notebook server, the Jupyter server is not doing anything, you are getting billed by the minute, I believe. So with this particular, like, I'm not sure how to show what the actual cluster is, but since it's got GPUs hooked up to it and it's intended for like at least like 100 people using it at the same time, it's probably costing them like a lot of money. So in the notebook, in the course discussion tech support, they said like what we need to try to do is tell our students to do, like, when they're done, when they've submitted everything, or if they're just done working, they have to go and do close and halt, because it frees up the resources for other people. So my kernel shouldn't be running because I just opened it, but just in case I'll do close and halt, and then like now we know like this isn't taking any more resources. So yeah, there's another problem with like, and it's depicted here, like I got everything working and then submitted it and it said like you get 0, and I was like, that's weird. It passed every single test, and basically like unless you restart the kernel, which it did, and then also checkpoint it manually, it's not going to send the right file. So all these things like I learned just in the past like 30 minutes. But yeah, like I wanted to finish this out because this is the final week of this course, and there's one more course in this specialization. This is a deep learning specialization on Coursera, and I've been subscribed to this for like a year, so I have paid a lot of money for this subscription, and I just completely forgot that I had it. So in the past like month and a half or 2 months, I've been like trying to do this as fast as I can so I could finally finish this up and have the shiny certification on my LinkedIn, because I'm an idiot. So yeah, I finally finished this. So I got an email like right before I came online saying, hey, you got a thing, so congratulations. So later on I'll just go and add that to my my LinkedIn. I am not sure how I feel about these Coursera courses, I'll be completely honest. I think the classes are very cool because they kind of summarize a bunch of literature. But the actual notebooks and stuff, I'm like, I don't know if I see the value in this because they kind of handhold you through the questions, and then like you really only type like a couple lines of code and then you submit stuff, and like, is that worth it? So I don't know. And if you're really focused on doing the class, like they say it's 4 weeks, right? But like I think I was doing 1 week in a day, right? If I like really sat down and focused, I could do like a whole week in 1 day. So like theoretically, you could do this entire course in a week, which means that you could do the entire specialization in about 1.5, 2 weeks, I think. Let me think. There's 4. Yeah, you could probably okay, so each course is 4 weeks. So if you do a week a day, let's say you're really ambitious and you do 2 courses in 2 days. That means like, yeah, you do 2 courses in a week. So yeah, if you're ambitious, you could probably get this done in like 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah. And I think at that point it's worth it because it was like $50. But if you keep forgetting, or if you like really follow their schedule, I really don't think that this is worth it, because like they're like 1 week of lecture is like really only like 20 minutes of video and like a couple notes. So it's interesting. I think it is very cool to see Coursera succeed. Yeah, so with Coursera, the biggest deal, and I was told this by my friend, there is like a Coursera Premium subscription, and that is like, maybe if we go to the homepage we can see it. The Coursera Premium is like, you get like everything basically, so like all of the courses are essentially available to you, and you pay like, it's expensive upfront. I think it's like a $500 annual fee. Um, but it gives you, I think, for some reason, my friend told me, I think it was like, it gives you basically like 90% of the courses that are available. So like you can just like power your way through a bunch of classes. And if someone else pays for it, it's totally worth it, right? Because like you can just do all this stuff for yourself. As long as someone pays for it. So my friend was saying like work is her, my former employer, because this is my former coworker, they were going to pay for it. And like that's absolutely worth it. But for me, because this is like, I think this specialization I signed up for, this deep learning one, I think this is $50 a month, and I like got overloaded with work, and then overloaded with like looking for a new job, and then like just overloaded in general, and I completely forgot I signed up for this under the initial thought that I would get this whole thing done in a month. So I have stupidly paid way too much money for this specialization. But with Coursera, if you've never done this before, like you can sign up for these specializations and they just charge you a monthly fee. And I think they make a bunch of money off of idiots like me who like basically pay for a specialization and then they never finish it. So the cost is like relatively low enough for some people that like they just may not notice that they're paying this much. And I started noticing because it was like I get like this amount per month is something I honestly may not notice because like I already had like a tech job even though I was getting paid a third of my value. And I just had so much other stuff going on that I was just like, oh, I just completely forgot, and that's on me. But then it got to the point where I was like, oh wait, what are my recurring bills? Because I'd rather be doing other things with my money. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been paying for Coursera for a long time and I haven't finished this. And when I started my actual job search before I accepted at Niantic, I wanted to also pay for LeetCode and Statistical. So after those three services added up is like that's actually a lot of money, right? So like I wanted to make sure I nailed all that out. So today I actually had on my task list, I ended LeetCode and Statistical because my current premium subscription will end after my first day at Niantic. So like I don't really need to do it for job interview stuff, and I don't even really need it to continue after like I practice. Maybe I warm up a little before I start my new job. So yeah, I am looking forward to June where I suddenly will be saving like a lot of money. But yeah, it's so stupid. I'm so dumb. I should have like really paid attention to this stuff before. But like, yeah, I good on Coursera for making money off of people who don't pay enough attention to their finances, I guess. I don't know. It's like totally stupid of me. If are there any courses you're thinking of taking or any specializations? I should say there are some. So this like what you pay for with the specialization is that you get something to put on your resume and on your LinkedIn. So that's why it's worth it, I would say, if you can get things done very fast. I don't know if hiring managers are impressed by it, but I'm hoping that at least impresses recruiters. Part of me feels like I'm not really sure if it's worth it. I'll be completely honest. But if you just want to take the course, you can usually audit them for free. You just don't get the credits and stuff at the end. So yeah, for 100 devs in Odin project, point out to one about learning the beginning that I never finished. Yeah, I think I definitely still shout out all the 100 devs, and Odin project I heard is very good. Even as a Flatiron graduate, they gave us Odin project resources to help us prep. So like, or talked, here's interviews with Odin project, either staff or alums. So I heard that they're pretty good. But I think like, especially with everything going like remote, I feel like it's very complicated and it's so easy to fall off the wagon if like nobody's pressuring you. So or not even pressuring you, but no one's like keeping you accountable. So like, Yeah. I hope you get back on when you can, because like it does feel rewarding to finish it, and then you can. I know with the 100 devs community, there's like very big support for everybody, um, and yeah, maybe we can. I don't know, we can work together on a project sometime. um, but yeah, what was I gonna say? Yeah, that's what I was doing. Like, shockingly, most of the day today. Like, I went to the gym. I checked in on. I I was telling this past weekend. I saw my mom with my brother, and I was saying like it's the weirdest thing for me to like have time off between jobs and know that that is something I asked for. So like I'm now trying to get back into waking up early, partly because I don't want to be surprised at like I can't wake up at 8 anymore. I have to wake up at like 6:45 or whatever, to be on time for work. And also like I feel like if I get up earlier, I can appreciate more sun, and if even if I want to do something fun, I can go out. But it does feel weird. I'll be honest. Like I'm a little restless where I'm like I should be doing something, right? Like so that's kind of why I was like trying to stream more, and then like over the weekend I worked on my website when it was like somewhat of a down moment, or like not as much happening moment. So actually, let me see. So I know I talked about it last time, um, but I also blogged about like what we talked about last time, so you can actually check it out here. And I'm thinking of doing this for every stream now. There are definitely some things I need to figure out. Like I tried to embed the video in here and it doesn't work. It's very odd. I read their documentation and like I think their documentation is a little broken. And all the sites I read for like, oh, this is how you embed a VOD uh, in WordPress, and it's like it doesn't work. Like this stuff is applicable from like 2019, and they've already changed the backend stuff. Um, yeah, I think that's a big asterisk. I think like last night I slept horribly, and I think I remember waking up at 3:30, and I think I fell asleep at 2, and partly because like we had a heat wave roll through the whole area, like all the way even to my mom's place, like 2 hours away, and I didn't turn the AC on, and I was like, why is it so warm in here? Um, and I forgot that the way that the HVAC works in this unit is like it's not smart about it. You have to like manually turn on the AC versus the heating. Um, and I completely forgot about that because like I've had to have the heat on for so long, or it's just like not even on, right? Like my default is like the default setting I had it on. I was like, okay, if it gets below 70, turn the heat on. And like I've never had to think about that because it hasn't. It's either been below 70 or it's been like 71 or something like that. And then yesterday, I think it was like 80 in the unit, and I just assumed it was because my computer was so hot. Um, and I was totally wrong. It was just because like I didn't turn the AC on and I didn't turn my fan on. I was being really stupid. Um, 18 and 25 Celsius. What is 20? Okay, so 20 Celsius is 60, right? 68. Because every 10C is 18. So 36 plus 32 is 68. So 9 more on top of that is 77. Wow, that's really comfortable. Yeah. Here it was over the weekend. It was I want to say 35C. Let me see. 93 F2 Celsius. 33.9. So it's 33.9 C over the weekend. So yeah, it was not great. My mom's place, the door basically faces like the rising sun, and I went for a walk and to play Pokemon Go like at like 8:30, 9 a.m. on Saturday, and when I touched the deadbolt lock, it was already warm, I was like, cool. And it was solely because like it had already gotten sun for like 2 hours. And then I walked around for like an hour, and I feel like I'm already more tan than before this weekend. So it's kind of crazy. All it was like walking around getting fried by the sun. Yeah. Let me think. Oh, other cool stuff. So I follow a machine learning engineer named Chip Huyen, and she has worked for a few different companies. She's like kind of an influencer, content creator around machine learning stuff. She seems very cool. Used to work for NVIDIA, and I think now is working for a startup. And she posted she wrote this book, and it looks like it's basically ready to go. So if you're curious about like machine learning systems, if there's a way to get this book for free, I would give it a try, because like most of the stuff that she's written has been like at least like pretty informative and very interesting. She had a previous book that was actually posted, I think, on GitHub, and was totally open, and also lecture notes. And she was like very receptive towards like improving the quality of the book/lectures. So strong recommend if you want to read something from about like, I guess, making machine learning work in production. She has like kind of a lot of experience doing this stuff, it turns out, and reasonable takes on how to approach your career. She has definitely posted on that, like, do not work for a startup because you expect money, because most of these startups fail. Work for a startup if you feel like you are going to learn something valuable that you would never learn from like a more established, solid company. I actually, like, speaking of that, like I had an interview with Google, and I didn't pass, but in their feedback they actually asked, like, do you think you would have made an impact at Google if you took the offer? And I said no. And like, it's just like a realistic thing of like, when you work for these big companies, there's like 60 to 100,000 people working there. Like, your single project, what are the odds that like you're gonna make a huge difference? And like, they support these big companies like support a bunch of like maybe legacy systems and contracts that have to be older, so like you may not be able to use like the newest cutting edge stuff. That's really cool. So yeah, that's kind of the spiel on like, if you work for a startup, you're probably not going to make money, but you will learn a lot. And that's a thing that's like, are you learning it from people who know what they're doing, or are you learning it through trial by fire? Yeah, I think like some banks and stuff were still like, they were angry that Python 2.7 support ended because they hadn't finished converting all their code over. And that was like, they were given like 5 years warning. Yeah, and like banks, I think, also use COBOL, so like they have all kinds of crap they got to deal with. Let me see. Okay. Other stuff that I looked at. I know last time I demonstrated a example. I demonstrated an example. What's it called? Python Jupyter Notebook. So I fixed it. I still not entirely sure what went wrong before, but I did update it so it's actually using the correct one. And I updated my template on GitHub. And if you want to see my profile, you can go ahead. I updated my picture because like the last one I took was in 2019, the one that's on my Twitch channel. I really hate this picture. I think something about like the camera I use is like somewhat high resolution, and I didn't soften anything because I was like, well, it's going to get compressed down to like 160 by 160 pictures. This is definitely tangential rant. But like, I think in that compression, instead of softening things, it like really over sharpened a bunch of stuff. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh man, I didn't think my hair would look like that all over the place. And like, I don't know. I'm not really a huge fan of this picture, and I think I need to up the stature. Well, actually, it it's really interesting. My current main monitor is a personal monitor. It's really color accurate, all this kind of stuff. My picture looks awful, but when I see it in OBS, it actually looks pretty good because, like, I guess the color profile I have active on the monitor is like very neutral, so it's good for like base editing, and OBS has it like makes it look like I actually have color in my face and stuff. I gotta figure out how to fully. This new monitor is very presenting a lot of challenges. But yeah, so last time I talked about oh gosh, I always forget these things. I talked about making this template and this EDA template, and this is what it looks like, and now it actually works in every repo I've got it in. And the big thing I've got it is inside the actual data science. I've made this like template. My friend from Flatiron made this and then shared it with us, and I was like, oh, this actually saves a bunch of time because otherwise we're like creating a new repo, then making a data folder, and then making a notebooks folder, and then a source folder, and then trying to keep everything consistent. And then like GitHub lets you do these things, like you can make a repo and then have it function as a template. So every time you make a new repo, you can actually it's just like new repository. So I want to make a new project, I can just choose like use this template, and it will like auto-populate a bunch of stuff. So it's very handy. If you want to use a template yourself and you're on GitHub, I would suggest like making a repo and making a template and then making it available. Or if you just like to use this one, like that's totally fine. Just like you can just go to that link and then borrow it. Mine is, or fork it, not borrow it. Yeah, and mine is mostly for Python. If you're using another language, you may want to make your own repo template, but it's fine. I'm not sure how to integrate with other languages. It's probably going to be okay. After I looked at making a template, I remembered that like the new hotness from the R people, like R Markdown people, is Quarto, which makes these like very beautiful like Markdown essentially notebooks. And the major feature is that like it has cross-language support. I don't think you can mix and match. Like I don't think it's like Polynote where you can like make variables in one language and then call them in another. But certainly like for making like, I think they make interactive plots. So this is like very nice. So I am starting to debate like should I also make a Quarto template? But then I have to like start using Quarto instead. But like this is something that at least I know on Yuka with Data on her channel, she's been talking about it, and then a bunch of R streamers are talking about switching to Quarto. And there's even like discussion like, well, why would I use Quarto instead of R Markdown? And people said like, well, it all works the same anyway, and then the new stuff is better, so like why not just switch? The main thing is like designed to be useful to anyone who wants to create reproducible documents. Oh, Aaron. Oh my gosh, hi. I was just in your stream, holy crap. Hello, Raiders. Dang, okay, wow, there's a lot of first-time chats from everybody. Oh my gosh. Thank you for rating, Aaron. I totally thought you were going to go longer, and I was like kind of working alongside you. But yeah, I guess Raiders, hello, welcome. Yes, Jens, I can actually talk about that. Yeah, so for everyone who's never been here before, my name is Aaron, or Chrono. I am a data scientist who works primarily in Python. Yes, you are smart, Aaron. I was talking about how like I am dumb because I don't have a rigid schedule for when I stream, and that usually means that I remember to stream at 10 o'clock and then I start at 10:30 and then I go, I hate myself because like I get excited and then like I have fun and then I'm gone for like uh, until like midnight or 12:30. Um, and I'm realizing my monitor doesn't have the right title. Um, Thank you, Jens. But yes, I'm a data scientist primarily working in Python. I have used R before. I'm very jealous of all of you R users and how statistics just works, frankly, better in R. Um, but I kind of just left a project where I was trying to convert the Introduction to Statistical Learning textbook from R into Python, and it was definitely not fun. It was interesting to learn, but because it was like basically just translating code and not even writing real problems, it was like, okay, I want to do something else. For these streams, I'm now starting to switch over into basically working on my personal project, which is a recipe recommender that uses natural language processing. For that, you can actually see we're just going over like a template file that I have. So I have this. It's currently not working on Heroku because everything is broken, but that's a perfect opportunity for me to refactor a bunch of the underlying code and deploy it later. Oh, hey, ClickBait, dang. Thank you for the follow. And Jen says, thank you for the cheers. Previously, I was a data scientist working at Medicare. So I was a federal employee from December 2020 until May 6th, 2022. Thank you, Radar. Thank you for the follow. So I was one of the first, I believe, 10 data scientists ever hired by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Thank you for the follow. Valkyrius. I don't know how to pronounce that one. I'm sorry. You can correct me. So I was one of the first 10 data scientists ever hired by Medicare and Medicaid Services. Officially, that was not our title due to how government works. The code for data scientists was not actually created until I think August of 2022, or sorry, August of 2021. So I was marked as something else. But I was actually a data scientist. I didn't fully enjoy the experience working there. And I left last week, about 2 weeks ago actually, because I accepted a job at Niantic and I'll be starting June 1st. I'm very excited to start because very likely it is going to be actual data science. And that's partly why I didn't want to stay there. Oh my gosh, thank you, Click, for the sub. Thank you. You are the third person to sub. So yeah, thank you. Pause right for a name. Valkyrie works. Full pronunciation is Valkyrius. Oh, why does that sound familiar? Valkyrius. I'm really excited. There was definitely cool stuff that I was working on at Medicare. I would say if you're interested in working in tech stuff for the federal government, and specifically for Medicare, I had a very negative experience. Not everybody's going to have a negative experience, and it kind of depends on where you are in your career and what you're comfortable with. Because like I only recently turned over into did a career pivot into data science. I am really I want to do the newest, coolest stuff. And I'm very, I guess, ambitious in that regard and wanted to do things. And the pace at which government was working was not exactly what I wanted it to be. And part of my responsibility was trying to figure out what architecture can we deploy for Medicare to make things better and attract other talent. However, that wasn't the entirety of my job. That was only supposed to be about 30% of it. And the remaining 70% of it was basically I don't really want to do this. Let me see. For natural language processing, we can actually, it's no longer my repo because it was a work repo, work project, and then turned it over. But the really cool project I had, which unfortunately is like pretty sad, for Medicare, we send a bunch of these inspectors out, and then they generate free text reports, basically telling us like what is going on at the nursing homes in terms of like violations and all that kind of stuff. And I was on a project to basically probe architecture in code infrastructure deployment, and the way we were probing it was, okay, this is a natural language processing project because all of these reports there's too many of them and they're too long for any single person to read, and we have a lot of rich data in here and we want to figure out what's going on. This particular project, everything is public, so I'm not shy about sharing this kind of stuff with anybody. And frankly, if you pay taxes to the U.S. federal government, you paid for this. So this is also another thing that like I was trying to push is a default to open, because we are beholden to the American taxpayers, or I was beholden to the American taxpayers, and I thought it'd be really cool to basically really try to advance open source via the federal government and advance the federal government in open source. So I thought this was all really cool, and because they didn't have a bunch of existing Python code, essentially, that meant that we could skip over a whole bunch of stuff. So I was actually trying to deploy things like data version control and ML flow or ML ops for this project. And unfortunately, we didn't have a bunch of this stuff ready to go. So there's a lot of like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, maybe 3 steps back sometimes. But I really like this project. It got me some experience with Docker. It got me some experience with Spark, and also data version control and ML flow. Unfortunately, because we didn't have the architecture, I had to roll this back. So it was basically just Spark, Docker, and then using things like Spacey for natural language processing. And this particular one, we were starting very simple. So deployed a pre-trained model and used honestly like pretty basic libraries just to even just start the ball rolling. So scikit-learn, doing just count vectorization. I deployed a term frequency inverse document frequency library, but we ended up not using it because there's just like turns out when you're used to coding and you understand how to make hyperparameters work, you can generate a crap ton of these models, and it turns out that like your subject matter experts may not be able to keep pace with you. So to save them maybe time and direct their focus, I really dialed back a lot of like code revisions just to make sure that like I wanted to keep subject matter experts on pace with the project. Didn't always happen. Also maybe a reason why I left. But yeah, so that being said, I did discover that I very much enjoy natural language processing projects because like I'll be honest, like I don't think I'm the best at communicating with people, and I think it's cool that we figure out ways to like help computers either communicate with us or help make sense of what we're saying as people. But yeah, so I guess where I fit, I don't know if that answers that like where I fit within the data science world. I would say I'm not a data engineer. I have messed around with like natural language processing models. I prefer to mess around with models and like that kind of stuff, but I fully understand like data science is a lot of like cleaning data to throw it into a model. Hopefully, and this is going to feel like maybe an interview, but hopefully in like a few years, like I can actually transition to like a machine learning engineer. And that would be more fun for me. Maybe it seems like or a research engineer. Yeah, it's the full stack stuff is like a little odd. I think like I kind of got thrown into that fire more than anything else. I totally don't mind learning this stuff because it is very useful. And just because like I think most of these things, people talk about like eventually data science and machine learning engineers just going to roll into software engineering, but like definitely with data science, it's like it's a very nebulous thing. because like you're gonna have people who basically just do statistics, which is already very complicated, right? But if you ask them to like deploy their stuff to a Docker container, it might be a little bit harder for them. But like there are going to be some data scientists who are more concerned about the whole data pipeline, and they would probably lean towards data engineering and maybe software engineering that way. And then the people who, like me, would rather be messing around with models and trying to get results out of them, like that's probably more like research scientist or machine learning engineering. So yeah, I think like if you're in this field right now, you're kind of like prodding around to see what you want to do, and also like what gets you hired. So yeah, let's see, came into a team that was brand new and created a new paradigm for data. Yeah, it's like, it is really, I think it is really cool to learn this stuff, but it is like sometimes like, oh, I don't really want to do this part of it. Like I feel like I'm trying to think of what I can say with this project. It started turning into, I was inadvertently teaching people how to use AWS, and I did not like that part of it. Because like, one, AWS is a real bear. Like I think it's incredibly cool, but it like the fact that there's like a cottage industry where all these companies are basically trying to make it easier to onboard onto AWS should kind of tell you like it is a little bit difficult to like get things rolling on there. But also like, frankly, we paid a contractor to come up with that stuff, and I was doing their job, so like I wasn't really happy with that. Yeah. Oh, hey, thank you, Stay Thirsty. Thank you for the follow. Yeah, and I'm trying to think of what else. I definitely like open source stuff. With this natural language processing stuff, like things I learned were that like a quick thing on Apache Tinkerpop. Is that a real thing? Like I feel like Apache has so much stuff in there that it's like, oh, you can just like make up whatever word and it's like, it's probably believable. But I have never worked with the no worries. Thank you for the raid, Aaron. I hope you get something good to eat. I saw you bench, so like I hope you get something like healthy. But yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so for natural language processing stuff, if you've never dealt with natural language processing, one of the things that you have to consider is, graph traversal language, also Gremlin. I mean, I thought it was funny, this is a tangent, but I thought it was funny that Apache has Kafka and it's just like a task management system, and I was like, that's gotta be, someone is like having way too much fun over there. But yeah, if you're doing natural language processing, there's a list of things called stop words. Let's do list. I mean, the most obvious one is the natural language toolkit list. And I think everyone may be using this, but basically, oh, you cannot see that. Okay. Basically, this is a list of words that, this was published, and there's a little bit of like, sometimes when you read about or learn about some stuff behind the most advanced things in AI, you realize that it's like, oh, there's definitely like a Wizard of Oz moment here. This list of stop words is like determined by people, so they went through and they read a bunch of papers and they're just like, oh, okay, well, these are the words that like actually have no value in terms of like, whenever they show up in text, they don't really add anything. So this was published, and there's a similar thing with computer vision, like ImageNet. One of their big things is like their whole database is labeled, right? So like someone had to label all that. And this was like, all of these words are just not important. So when you do natural language processing stuff, computers don't see words like we do, so they have to convert them to basically math or matrices. And this basically will say like, okay, every time this shows up, just don't include this in the matrix because it doesn't help anything, and it probably actually makes things worse if you include this. So all of these get dropped if you include stop words by default. And for my work at Medicare, one of the things I was considering was like, well, this is like healthcare administration, so we can actually come up with like a list of stop words or unimportant words for healthcare administration and then contribute that to open source. Kind of like I think Stanza is now doing medical analysis images, or medical analysis text. But yeah, so really basic stuff with natural language processing for that project was like, I was also trying to do topic clustering. And that was like a thing where like we had essentially, the inspectors were looking for like almost like 400 different items, and I was like, there's no way I'm gonna like, I don't remember 400 things when I'm looking for stuff. Like, I think we very likely have to shorten that down. So we're trying to group all of those reports into basically 40 categories was the biggest model that I came up with, I think. And just trying to see like, okay, what are these groupings of words? Yeah, so topic modeling originally used GenSim and then switched to scikit-learn using latent Dirichlet allocation, and then tried to mix in the term frequency, inverse document frequency with that, but the first round it didn't help all that much, and then increasing the list of stop words, that helped a lot. Yeah. Topic clustering is unreliable because the messages you get are so short. Snorkel oh, that's, I've never used Snorkel. So the things I've referenced so far, well, okay, if you're using Python and you want to do like the most, I want to say, I was gonna say basic, but the most like stable NLP thing for Python, or maybe any language, is just like natural language toolkit. So like, you can give that a look. It's one of the oldest ones. I think people did performance stuff. It's pretty slow. I personally, at work, we were using Spacey. Oh, wow, I didn't spell that correctly at all. I think Spacey's really cool, and then you can actually do a lot of stuff under the hood to make your model even better. But the thing I was debating, oh no. The thing I was debating including was Stanza, which is from Stanford. This looks like super cool. Yeah, Spacey's a lot faster, and there's like an underlying deep net that powers a bunch of stuff, so you can like alter a bunch of the stuff in there, and there's extra features in Spacey that are really cool. So it does like parts of speech tagging, and you can use the parts of speech tagging to actually do a bunch of filtering in your searches. And Spacey has these pipelines, which I really like. And Stanza, I think, has something similar. I think there's something about Stanza that like makes it faster too. But the other thing is like they actually have these like open source biomedical models. So if you're looking at biomedical data, you can reference Stanza, and it should take things a lot easier. Yeah, like I would recommend checking them out. The Stanza, I think, is actually a fork. So Stanford used to have their natural language processing research, I think, was based off of a Java library, and I think they forked it into Stanza, and this is like a quote native Python library. I think originally it was supposed to be a wrapper around this like core NLP, but with native Python code. However, like I think this took off because Python took off, and this is like probably better. There may be ways if you're using core NLP to mix it with like Spark possibly, and then that would probably be a lot faster. Yeah, Snorkel, I've heard of Snorkel, but I don't think I've ever actually looked at it. Let's say Snorkel Python. Introducing the new Snorkel. Oh, I've definitely seen this before. Oh man, okay. I haven't seen this in a long time, but that mascot I recognized right away. Okay, so we're gonna put this in here too. Man, okay, so before the raid, I was talking about like I created a website for all of my data science stuff. Larger heuristic base for weak supervision. Okay, huh. All right, I'm gonna nerd out on this, but like I was working on this website. It's super bare bones right now, but this is my like personal website, um, and it's for data science stuff. And what I've already posted so far were like in my job search. These are the things that kind of helped. I have like lists of things to add on to here that I haven't done that yet. But I think like most of these links, they're like honestly vetted because I used them. So like if you were thinking about doing data science stuff or you're looking for things to practice, like I would check out these links. They helped me frankly like a lot. And like one of the big ones was like, and where is it? I still didn't add it on here. Okay. One of the big ones for me that convinced me to actually do my job search was goodoldlevels.fyi, because this has a bunch of salaries and stuff. So for data scientists, you can see here like what people get paid, and I will tell you as a federal employee, I did not get paid this much. So it was like pretty brutal when it was like, you know, I kind of want to look for another job. Like what would I get in industry working for like even like a relatively medium-sized company? And I just went to Levels and like checked like, oh wow, I am getting really screwed. So yeah, oh, actually, for KD Nuggets, actually, let me go back to the homepage. Let's make this data scientist, and it defaults to my region, but you can check here. Yeah, I think so. The craziest thing I saw was like, skip this for now. Look at that one. IC8 at Facebook, 4 years of experience at company, 15 years overall work experience. Their total compensation is 1.1 million. I am sure it is very different now because I don't know, when was this offer given? February 28th. So that was before they, I think, did a quarterly report. So that stock value, that 700K in the middle, that probably tanked. But you know, it's, how can you see that and not go, yep, I need to leave my government job? I see this person at Microsoft just got a nice offer. But yeah, so strongly recommend if you're thinking of doing data science, and even if you're happy in your current role, it helps to know what other people are being paid. And like you can, like, this is for the SF Bay Area, so it's really skewed towards like Bay Area salaries, but like obviously you can put in whatever region you want. For this website, for helpful resources, I mostly aim this at some of these are meta links, basically, not meta like Zuckerberg meta, like actual like here's a collection of links. So like this first one is a Reddit post that someone posted on our data science, the subreddit for data science. Frankly speaking, I skipped almost all of this stuff in the beginning because it was like either companies I wasn't interested in working for, or it was like couldn't even work for. But they actually mentioned like on interview prep using all of these KD Nuggets and stuff. Like I thought, as a boot camp grad, I will tell you that part of what I was required to do to sign up for my income share agreement / my tuition waiver was I needed to post an article on some blog once a week ad infinitum, or for forever until I got a job. And that kind of made me realize that like some of the KD Nuggets towards data science and analytics video posts are not necessarily the highest quality, and like I'm guilty of this. I published it to Analytics Video. Not all of my posts are great, but the ones that are good, like I spent a lot of time writing, and they usually took. It was extremely difficult to do the blog posts and networking and job applications and code commits and stuff, hitting those targets every single week. So obviously I didn't make it. So I am paying them. But I think like KD Nuggets is really good. However, a lot of those like, and I'm also guilty of this, like those resources get old and then the authors don't go back and update them very frequently. I thought KD Nuggets was pretty good. Probably better than, it's really weird. Towards Data Science has a podcast now, which I think is actually very good, because like it's interviews with people in the industry, and it's different takes on things. Maybe not all the interviews are the best, but it is really interesting to hear the perspectives of people who are professional data scientists. And like they had, frankly, I think they had a fascinating interview with like a machine learning engineer at Apple. And I think they actually interviewed Ken G of like Ken's Nearest Neighbors podcast. And he's a big YouTube data scientist. But yeah, Medium posts are like, cause yeah, but KD Nuggets is like pretty good, but I felt like there's like too much. So for me, when I was trying to review either statistics or machine learning, I generally just read Introduction to Statistical Learning. And that is at, there we go. I was like, I definitely have that link in there. I should say that this is in R. This is the thing I mentioned before, but if you're just reading the text, you don't necessarily need to code. You will not learn the stuff from this. It's basically like a refresher. They simplify a lot of the math so that like you get your concepts down, and they have a book called Elements of Statistical Learning, which actually has very thorough derivations for things, but that's like a reference book. It's very unlikely someone's going to ask you to derive the loss function for logistic regression like from scratch. So this, I think, like is actually a good way to like just remind yourself of all the things that are happening, and it's free. It's totally free. Like you can just click this link. I don't know if you can see that link at the bottom left. That is the PDF for the textbook. If you want to actually take the class, they have a paid class. I think it's, online course, and it's through edX. That's totally up to you. I emailed them with my friend. My friend is a technical writer at Amazon. We were trying to basically offer them a Python version of the course, and after like a week, the authors of this book emailed me back and said like, we're working on our own Python version, but it's going to take forever to deploy. And they didn't seem to be open to collaboration. Like my friend and I weren't actually looking to make money off it. We just wanted to contribute it in the like, hey, if this helps people learn, then like just take it, right? Because like it's helpful for people. But I think they're like actually trying to make money off it, so I can't fault them. But yeah, that is so yeah, before the raid, yeah, like if you want to do a quick visualization or a stats calculation, like just use R. But if you need to mix other stuff in it, like it's time for Python. I absolutely love working with R when it's a statistics calculator. Making visualizations, like it's so easy. And originally I thought the syntax was like kind of weird with that, like the arrows and the tildes and all that kind of stuff, but like I kind of like them now. And it's gotten to the point where if you're trying to do stats, you can use in Python, you can use Statsmodels. However, I will tell you that the Statsmodels documentation is pretty bad. Some of the examples like aren't even fully specified, and some of the functions don't actually tell you all the arguments and stuff. So like the documentation's actually pretty bad is generous. I think it's like actually awful. I felt like I was jumping between user-submitted tutorials on other sites, and then comparing it with the Statsmodels documentation to actually figure out how things worked. And I was like, you should not do that to your users. Like, that's really horrible. Yeah, I think like an example would be like in ordinary least squares. If you look at the, where was it? User guide, linear regression, OLS. Oh, this is just the examples again. In the actual documentation, like these variables and methods aren't all spelled out. So like you can like read their documentation and just not understand how things work. And sometimes they don't even reference an example that you can look at. So it's like pretty frustrating. But the best thing about Statsmodels is somebody made an API that lets you write things as formulas and specifically as R formulas. So this statsmodels.formula.api, this is hilarious. Like they don't even mention it here, but in the page where like I was actually reading it, they're like, oh yeah, just write this as an R function. And I was like, wow, that's so much easier. And then you can call the same R operations and stuff from that formula API and everything works. So it's just crazy that it's like, I think maybe people should maybe just like these people should maybe admit that like, oh yeah, we're not maybe doing this correctly. Like even other things with Python and stats is like, it's so confusing. I had talked about this on other streams, but like I moved to Statsmodels. Before this, I was using SciPy and NumPy and scikit-learn. And I learned that all of these libraries approach stats in a different way, and they're not necessarily that great at it. Oh, thank you, Young Gritch? I'm gonna call you Young. Thank you for the follow, Young. Yeah, so like scikit-learn, for example, you can do statistical calculations in there, but it's extremely hard to pull back your coefficients and your p-values of each of those coefficients. And the reason why is because they don't intend people to use it that way. The idea is that you can like you can just make a model and then use it. There's not really, they didn't think people would try to investigate the values of the things. And then NumPy, for example, like you can make your vectors with, say you want to make a vector of all numbers determined from a random normal distribution. There is a function that will let you do that. It will make a vector to whatever size, to whatever mean, and whatever standard deviation you would want based off of a random normal distribution. However, you can't really do statistical calculations from it. And the reason why is, and SciPy lets you like reference distributions and call numbers back from it, but you can't necessarily fit regression very well to it. So for example, in SciPy, if you fit a linear regressor, it will by default like force an intercept, and it doesn't give you the option to change that. So like if you just don't want to fit an intercept, you can force it to be 0, but like you still can't pull back your coefficient values. And if you look, I talked about this on a previous stream. The reason why is because all of these things were not designed to do statistics that way. They were all thinking about different things. So like NumPy was intended to do linear algebra and matrix math, and like all these other things got added on because it was like, oh, okay. Pandas is intended to do data frames, but you can technically do stats in there too, I think. Hey, Veronica. Nice to see you. Let's see. SciPy is intended to do the underlying calculations for underlying scientific calculations, but not necessarily function as a statistical calculator, which is weird, right? Like, yeah. And then scikit-learn, because it's like it's more like a fire and forget sort of thing, where you like fit a model and then use it, and you don't really question it. So like none of those things basically does what R does with statistics. So I was trying to use a mix of all three of them. Like, okay, for example, the most annoying thing I ran into was like trying to set a random seed with SciPy. Technically, you can do it with SciPy, and the way you do it's like very ugly. Or you can do it with hey Ghibli, or you can do it with what's it called, NumPy. But then why did you do it with SciPy to begin with, right? And I worked through like a few chapters trying to work all these things together, and it just turned into a huge nightmare, especially when I was trying to plot things. And then eventually, the answer was you just go to Statsmodels and just kind of like machete your way through their documentation to try to figure out what's going on. So yeah, like, and in learning, in going through all of this process, I learned that Python version 3.10, starting with 3.10, actually has a built-in statistics library. And it is very funny because like Python statistics packages built in. You can import this if you want, but I think it's very funny because it tells you straight up it is not intended to replace all these other statistics calculators. It is aimed at providing the level of graphing and scientific calculators. And like, it's in looking at like what you can actually get from these things, like you kind of understand why. Like it's pretty like basic statistics. The reason why I said like pandas technically does statistics is like, yeah, you can actually you can call like things like the mean and the variance if you want, but that's like very general statistics. It's not like you're trying to find like a particular z value for whatever thing you're looking at. No problem, Valkyrius. Thank you for joining us. Hope to see you again. But yeah, let me see. Yeah, so I also talked about this on different streams because so my let me see. My current dev environment, and I can show it in just a second. I forgot I didn't open this. My current dev environment is I use sorry. Ooh. And code dot. My current dev environment. Oh, okay. It's installing stuff. But we can actually, and I can change this title. Oh gosh. Okay, so my current dev environment is actually, I use for Python installs, I use a thing called ASDF. Which for other people was intended, I think, let's see, your plugin's first party. Was intended to do Elixir, Erlang, Node.js, and Ruby. It was not intended to do Python. But one of the things that you can do with ASDF is you can install multiple versions of, in this case, Python, and then reference them just from different things. So like when and then for Python virtual environments, I actually use Poetry, and that's what's actually kind of here. And then you can actually see like I have a Poetry PyProject at Toml. And Poetry is really cool because you can like specify what's different about Poetry is you specify the projects that you know you're actually going to use, and then it just resolves all of the backend dependencies by itself using pip. You don't have to, like, if you used pip requirements.txt or pyenv, like those things tend to break. And if you use conda with the environment.yaml, those definitely break. Like that, I've never been able to get that to work from architecture to architecture. But yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, so I'll finish this thought and then I'll show the figurines and stuff. But yeah, so with ASDF like and poetry, like I really like this because I learned about poetry at work. Because you have such a minimal list of dependencies, like it is very easy to get things working. Yeah. So I'm now, I guess, becoming that the crotchety old coder who doesn't want things to change. At work, with this on my work computer, I had installed Python 3.6, 3.8, 3.9, and 3.10 all on the same computer. And I thought it was because like I jumped to 3.10. Or actually, when I started, 3.9 was like really picking up. So I started with 3.9 and then realized a bunch of libraries didn't work. So I rolled back to 3.6. 3.6 stopped getting long-term support, so I moved back up to 3.10 because I was like, okay, well, that's the newest thing now. But if you're doing Spark stuff, Spark doesn't work with anything newer than 3.8. Specifically with like, if you're trying to do Spark NLP from John Snow Labs, which let's load that up too. This is actually also a very cool thing if you're using Spark, so I'd recommend checking that out. This they tell you like, oh, it's only compatible 3.8. That's the newest you can go, and then it relies on PySpark, which like also I think required 3.8. So PySpark, if you use 3.9, still kind of works. Spark NLP, if you use 3.9, it just breaks. I'm not really sure why it doesn't work, but it's like it will totally error out. And in their GitHub issues, you see a bunch of people complain like, why isn't this working? And I would say like 95% of the time, someone from John Snow Labs is like, hey, you didn't look at our table showing our compatibility list, so just roll back your Python version and you should be fine. Yeah, so like I really liked 3.6 because it started bringing in static typing. 3.8 I thought moved it forward because you can actually add generic type and add your own custom types. 3.10 and 3.11 3.8 also introduced security features that like I think they're mostly on the back end. I don't really use them. 3.11 I haven't really seen anything other than like the stats library is going to be better. I'm curious what's different, but I haven't really looked at like what is under the hood at Python, because like I don't know, frankly, like I feel like Python for me is the mortar that lets me use a bunch of libraries as bricks. So as long as the bricks work, then like I'm like, oh, maybe I don't really want to see how the mortar is actually working. But Conda I really liked for a while until I tried to move to different architectures and operating systems, and it's like it was a huge hassle. So before I started working at Medicare, I had a Raspberry Pi, and I was trying to get Spark. I was trying to get two of them networked together as a Spark cluster. And I tried to also like move one of my projects over from my like it was a nightmare. When I was at Flatiron School, they gave us a Mac as a loaner, so I was working on that, and then I tried to move it to my personal Dell XPS, and like it didn't work, and I had to like really roll back a bunch of features and then figure out why some of the libraries weren't working. And then it got even worse when I tried to move it to a Raspberry Pi, and it's because the way Conda fully specifies what you need for each virtual environment also means that like it installs libraries that, or tries to install libraries that don't even apply to that OS or architecture. So for Mac, for example, it'll call towards like OpenGCC or something like that. I forget. It calls towards some open languages for either Intel x86 or now ARM. But with the Raspberry Pi, like it couldn't use the same Mac specific backend stuff. And then for the Dell, like it definitely couldn't. Now on PC, actually, I'll pitch this. I absolutely love this. This is Terminal. This is Windows Terminal. And this is running Ubuntu. So if you have a PC and you want a dev environment that won't make you go crazy like PowerShell does for me, I highly recommend getting everything installed to do Windows Subsystem for Linux, because you actually get like, this is like Linux running in like a weird virtual machine on your PC, and you still have a PC, so you can like play games and stuff on it, which is like, if you just want to do dev work, a Mac is fine. If you want to do anything other than dev work, well, don't get a Mac. Don't play games on a Mac. It is a horrible experience. Don't do creative stuff on a Mac unless it's Final Cut Pro, because all that software works basically the same on PC. Yeah, I'm very bitter towards Macs because I had one, and it was fun paying $3,000 for a laptop, and then 18 months later, Apple dropping support entirely for your hardware. Like, I think if you're doing software dev work and you want a computer that lets you do things without thinking, like in terms of setting up your dev environment and just working and you just move on, the MacBook Air, when they're on sale, I think is like the best value, because it's, what was it? I just saw a news thing, like an Engadget thing, saying they're $850. The battery lasts forever. The keyboard is okay, and the screen is pretty decent, and the performance is good. So like, and because a bunch of open source people built out Homebrew to be so good, like, you can really easily install a bunch of stuff and it works totally fine. I think that is like the best computer for hitting that like 80-90% of users. But if you are also wanting to do games, or if you want to do like video or photo editing, I would probably get a different kit, just because like I think your value after the MacBook Air, I think your value quotient starts dropping. I've ranted on this before, but I absolutely hate every single YouTuber who says that like your answer to getting better performance, the best performance on Mac, is to spend $4,000 to $5,000 on a computer. I think that is the worst thing that you can tell someone, because like for $4,000 to $5,000 you can get that, which is an actual desktop, and I have 36 terabytes of storage in there, and an actual GPU. So like I can throw whatever I want at this and it's going to run, as opposed to like that Mac Studio or whatever, which you cannot upgrade because it is hardwired to reject any SSD that you put into it, and doesn't have a real GPU, is designed to go obsolete in like 2 years. Like every YouTuber tells you like spend $4,000 on a Mac, is also not telling you that they write all that shit off as a tax expense. Steam Deck. Oh, right. Before I forget, so all the minifigures. Actually, why don't we? This is a sit stand desk, so we need to go up a little higher to show everything. All right, focus. Cool. Okay, so these are mostly amiibo. These are like things I've collected over time, because I am a man-child, and I love games. So started with honestly, amiibo I don't really collect. These are just ones that I really liked for whatever reason. So the Pikachu is the only one I've ever unboxed, because I don't honestly know why. These are all like Smash amiibo, and I think the Pikachu I unlocked because I stored a character and a control set into one figure, and I just picked Pikachu because like I played OG Smash, and in OG Smash, Pikachu is my main, and I was like, I'll be honest, I was like pretty cracked at OG Pikachu. It was pretty bad. I wasn't the best player, but I did know that like for current Smash players, Pikachu's up B quick attack only lets you do 2 moves. N64 Pikachu did not have that limitation, but the frame window for you to activate an additional quick attack shrank each time. But it got to the point where I could do 4. So like I knew the timing to actually like really get Pikachu down. So with that, I proudly like unpacked Pikachu and used it as my main and I guess only amiibo. Um, so all these other ones I have were ones that like I just really like them. So I've got Lucario because like for I think when Lucario first showed up in Smash, I very much enjoyed playing with Lucario. So I got a Lucario one because I really liked that one. Marth was my main in Melee. Uh, yeah, I spent way too much time playing as Marth. Um, Meta Knight I had a lot of fun with, and also just love that figure. I think it looks really cool. The Ridley figure I think looks entirely badass, and I was like, the second I saw it in the store, I was like, I gotta get this. And Little Mac, I love playing Little Mac because it was just like he's horrible at jumping, terrible air, but he's so fun. And like it was fun on like short small stages because he runs so fast. So like I would like 3v1 people with Little Mac because he would just run across the stage and do dash A. Young Link I had a lot of fun with. Wolf I thought was really cool, and I like the character, like the actual model. Majora's Mask Link I didn't expect to find, and it just reminded me of like I actually didn't play Majora's Mask because the game art like scared me when I was a child, and then when I heard about how the game actually plays, I was like, I play games to like kind of chill out, and like having a timer on it is like not a thing I would want to play. Nothing's wrong with Marth. I just spent way too much time in high school playing Melee. um, and I it's pretty funny like N64 Smash, Melee Smash, and I think the Wii U one, I forgot what it was called, Brawl. All of these things like I played way too much of, and I went to PAX East a few years ago, and I just assumed everyone in my generation played that much Smash. So we borrowed a Wii U to play Smash, and went and set it up, and it was supposed to be free for all, and it became free for all against me. Because like I think at one point it was like, oh, I wiped of the 4 players, I wiped 2 of them and then only lost 1 life. So I was like, wait, you guys didn't play like 30 hours of Smash a week when you're in high school? And they're all like, no. um yeah, so I really enjoy Smash. Maybe too much. In the new one, when I unlocked Incineroar, I think he's a blast. I love how he is a wrestling heel, and it is extremely satisfying to build up the counter charge and then unleash it on someone. So when I saw the Incineroar in stores, I was like, I definitely have to play, or I have to get this figure. The Diablo one was rare, but also because like I really love Diablo, and when they said like, oh yeah, we're making this like one-off amiibo for Diablo 2 I think on Switch, I was like, honestly I just want the amiibo because it's a loot goblin. I don't even know what it's gonna be used for. I just think it's hilarious. Let's see, this Zero for Mega Man X is obviously not an amiibo, but I saw it in Target in the clearance section, and I was like, I have to get it because it is the second half of my internet name, and it has been that way for like a long time actually. Yeah, so my internet name is Chrono from Chrono Trigger and Zero from Mega Man X, because I loved both characters, and I just like the sound of those two things together. Let me see what else. This Metroid Dread amiibo set. I don't even own Metroid Dread yet. It's on my like mega wish list for Switch. I just haven't gotten around to buying. Thank you, Tanho. Nice to see you. Yeah, Tanho. I guess also. Oh man, there's a lot of people to shout out. Yeah. Welcome. Yeah, we're doing I guess a little desk tour now instead of actually talking about data science. So I apologize if people actually want to go over data science stuff in different projects. But when I saw it, was like, oh yeah, nice Pikachu. I'm like, oh, I've never actually done a desk tour. The Metroid Dread, it's really funny. Like there's a story behind this. The Target that's next to me, like literally like a half mile away from me, for the longest time didn't show up at Target.com. Like, if you went on Target and tried to check stock, like that address did not exist in Target's like location database, and it was the most confusing thing because I was like, this is a real Target. Like, I've been in here several times. It says Target. It's got to be real. So like, I think one day I just walked in there and like I went on Target. I saw that this amiibo came out, and I looked at the figures and I was like, dude, that suit Samus and that Emmy, they look so cool. So I just wanted it. And I walked in, and their stock didn't show up anywhere because their store didn't show up anywhere. And then actually, Tan, like I've definitely talked about keyboards before, and I think probably too many times. Especially since I'm like sort of in the market for another keyboard. And in particular, I'll put it in chat. I really want this keyboard because the one I've got here, this is a Redox keyboard. It has some issues, so I kind of want a wired split ergonomic keyboard. Yeah, so this Metroid Dread amiibo, I walked in and was like, oh cool, they have one, so I'll just buy one. And then I was looking around and I was like, well, nobody else wants one, and they somehow have 5, so I'm not really in a rush to get it, and I'll just walk around the game section for a little bit. And so for those of you who don't know, I actually used to work at Best Buy. So my background's actually in chemical engineering. I got a PhD from UMass Amherst. You can actually Google my dissertation if you'd really like to. It was published in 2017. I'll just give you the link if you really want to see it. Dissertation, and I'll put the link in chat. Yeah, if you want to see it, here you go. That's my dissertation. I defended it in 2017, and then it's pretty funny. For undergrad, I was in a research lab where we were working in Octave and MATLAB. And I did not like it at the time, and then I ended up joining this wet lab chemistry group because I was like, well, I actually want to try doing experiments. And it turns out I really, really hated doing experiments because there was a lot of like scheduling and doing just like a lot of work. And I realized that like the thing that was actually holding us back wasn't doing the experiments, it was analyzing the results. We were actually watching video and recording like pixel by pixel level changes and stuff, and it was entirely manual. So I was trying to figure out ways to basically start like a computer vision sort of like project at our lab, so that instead of spending like a week to analyze like 50 particles, we could spend like 20 minutes to analyze like several thousand. So I was trying to do this, and then I actually very much enjoyed that, like trying to get code working so that we could frankly live like at one point I told my teammate, like, we are clicking pixels frame by frame in a video. Like, my teammate was like, yeah, that's work for an undergrad. And I was like, it's not even work for an undergrad. If we give this work to an undergrad, they'll never want to do research. And that turned out to be true. Every single one of our undergrads, like, only one of them went to go on to a PhD. And I was like, this is a horrible experience for everybody. Like, nobody wants to do this. And it's like things that if we figured it out, a computer would be able to do it very easily and faster. So I was trying to get this rolling, and then actually that was an accidental pun. My dissertation talked about particles rolling at interfaces. So I was trying to get this working, and then ended up discovering that this is technically a field of data science. So I did a hard pivot into doing data science because this is the stuff I actually cared about doing. So yeah, that's how I ended up here. But it was a long path, as you'll figure out from the math, where I defended in 2017, and my first actual data science job was in 2020. After I defended, I spent several months, like, I did not have a job. So I spent several months driving across country, which was honestly super cool. I don't think I'll ever get that experience again. I saw like 17 national parks or something like that. And then couldn't find something in chemical engineering right away. So I took the time to go to a data science boot camp. But before that, I was actually working part-time at Best Buy as a salesperson. And it was actually a fairly easy job for me, not because it's a dumb job. It is definitely a challenging job, especially since my first day was Black Friday. It's challenging for different reasons than like writing code, right? Like it's challenging to make people happy while also making your company that you're working for happy. What was I going to say? So there's a lot of like interacting with people in that job that makes it difficult. But that's how I ended up getting a bunch of these amiibo, because I got them essentially at discount. What was this related to? So my experience at Best Buy told me that like sometimes people just leave tags out and it just results in either problems or interesting conversations. So I was at this Target trying to get those amiibo, and as I'm walking around the game section, I noticed in the Xbox section there's a tag, and I was like, that's weird. There's a part shortage. There's no way this particular item is in stock, and they must have just forgotten to remove the tag from the shelf. So I asked the guy, like, hey, do you actually have one of these? And he was like, yeah, let me look on the back. And I was like, okay, I know what that means. That means shut the fuck up. And I'm going to go on a 20-minute break. So he leaves, and I'm like, I'm not going to see him. He's going to take a break. That's totally fine. We've all played this game before in retail. 20 minutes later, he walked out of the back, and he was carrying an Xbox Series X. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, we had literally one. And I was like, straight up, I didn't think that that'd be back there. I thought you guys just left a tag out there on accident. And he's like, no, we had one. It's just that nobody wanted that. So I was like, okay, well, I'll buy it, because like I've been looking for one for like a year. Even when I didn't have disposable income, I was like, holy shit, I actually really want one of these. So he was like, okay, cool, I'll ring you up. I was like, oh, also, the only reason I actually came here was for that. So I walked out with like Amiibo and an Xbox Series X. Let me see. So that's the story of that one. The two Hot Wheels, because when I was little, I had Hot Wheels collections, and I had to actually donate a bunch of them when I moved several times. One of them actually can take a Lego figure, so that one's really cool, but I don't really want to open the package because I like how it looks. I like how it just sits there. And the other one's actually a Mario Kart one. So let me... Right? I saw that in the store. I was like, yo, I gotta get that. And then other stuff on here, like this is Kit Fisto, the Lego Kit Fisto. Let me see if it will focus. If I cover my face, maybe. Still trying to find my eye. There we go. Yeah. Probably my favorite Jedi. And then Ahsoka Tano. And Clone Trooper. I think this is Mark 1 armor Clone Trooper. So yeah. That's my nerd thing. And I'm gonna roll back in chat. I was like definitely in the zone just chatting. I'm sorry. Let's see. Oh yes, the die. I have two of these. So this is the 8-sided one, and I also have a 6-sided one somewhere. I think in my old place, my brother's place. I got these at PAX when it was like total coincidence. When I was at the data science boot camp, I was actually able to get tickets for PAX Prime, and got one day, went with my brother, and it was a blast. I went to PAX East, I think, for 4 years, and I loved it. So it's changed a lot. It's a lot less fun than it used to be, so I've kind of stopped going. It became like more like waiting in line instead of actually hanging out with my friends and stuff. So it was like, okay, I don't want to go to this anymore. Yeah, actually, during that time when I was there, I also got to see Binging with Babish on his book tour. So that was like, oh, when I realized that he was in town, I was like, I'm definitely going to that. Let me see what else. Yeah, so I got these, and they were actually very helpful at the data science bootcamp because, like, when we do pair programming, the navigator, I would always offer the navigator to hold the dice, so that they could have something to like focus their hands on while they were talking and like talking to the driver about what to execute. So yeah. And also Cyberzyne. Sorry, I didn't say hi before. I didn't notice there's so much chat. But let me see. Okay, let me keep scrolling through. Yeah, this desk was definitely a treat to myself. So one of the hard things about working for government at the time of pandemic was that our take-home bonuses for like ergonomics and stuff, all they could offer me was this like thing that you convert on your desktop, and they're like, yeah, I mean, if you want that, it'll take like 8 weeks to deliver, and also you need a doctor's note. And I was like, I just want like credit so I can buy a sit-stand desk. And they're like, oh, we don't do that. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, like, literally all of my friends in private industry just get credit to get something for their whatever. So that's, like, kind of annoying. But yeah, so this desk, the legs are from Desk House. The tabletop is a butcher block I got from Home Depot, and then I just custom built everything. So if you really want to know, like, I like drilled all the threaded inserts in, so everything's screwed in into metal, so I can like keep reusing this desktop hopefully for forever, because I don't want to give something up that was frankly pretty expensive, and this is frankly, like, completely honestly, this is the nicest desk I've ever owned. This is probably like the nicest furniture I've ever had. But yeah, like, it's 6 foot wide, 30 inches deep. I've got 2 monitors, a real camera for my webcam, an overhead light, which is actually, this is pretty cheap, and yeah, like giant ass mouse pad. Favorite desk. I love this thing. I like will have my laptop on here, and there's still space to do other stuff. But yeah, let me see what else is on here. And I can't show you, but there's actually a treadmill to my left. So when I'm watching other streamers, or watching YouTube, or doing like very simple reading or simple coding, I'll actually do it from my treadmill. So that's how I get like 18,000 something steps a day. Let's see. Keyboard. This, I mentioned, this is a Redox keyboard. I got it from Falbatech. It is based off the Ergodox, but has a smaller footprint. Falbatech is based in Poland. They make pretty nice keyboards, but this one does have some lingering issues, and it's not entirely what I want. Like, I spent way too much money on these like double shot keys, so they're supposed to be translucent, and I don't have RGB on this thing, so like, I'm an idiot. So I kind of do want the Iris keyboard, because it is like, I can just move the keys over hopefully, and then that would be super nice. Let's see. Veronica is a main Bayonetta Peach or Ice Climbers. If you mained Ice Climbers in Melee, you were a nightmare. And Kirby, actually, the designer of Smash talked about like his philosophy for designing Kirby the way it was. So yeah, that's actually pretty cool. Let me see. And thank you Ghibli for the kudos. Yeah, I think my parents were very sweet. My mom was very sweet this weekend. She said like, yeah, I mean, I'll paraphrase things my parents have said before, but it was like, you kind of have to put up with a lot of shit to get where you are now. So I think, let's see. Still trying to look for catch up on chat. There's so much. For, I think, Cyberdesign, you were asking about, where is it? Did I ever solve that computer vision problem? Unfortunately, I didn't. So, my my PI, my boss, told me that we are an experiment-based lab, so your coding stuff is not necessarily real work. So you need to go back into the lab. And I tried to justify it by saying, like, you know, if we get this working, we can drastically increase our throughput and actually have statistically valid results. Like, we are working so hard to get 50 particles in a week. What if we could analyze 3,000 in a week? Isn't that better? Like, even if, let's say 99% of them are good and you have 1% that are bad. That's 1%. That 1% that are bad are basically our current output. And unfortunately, I was told, like, that still does not mean that you're, in my opinion, working. And I was like, okay, all right, we're not going to do that then. So it was a little unfortunate. Let me see, what else are we going through? For retail employees, like, I tried my hardest when I was working there, and I was always like trying to take care of people. Not all of my coworkers believed in that, but generally there's like a thing of like, we try hard. But I definitely had customers who were not the best. I had people who like wouldn't even bother to learn my name and then would immediately ask for a discount. On Black Friday, I was grabbed because, like, as you can imagine, Black Friday we're generally understaffed. It was, I think, the only time I was even close to snapping at an employee was because I went to go help somebody. And then as I was walking back to the place I was supposed to stand for the next like 6 hours, 4 people like literally just grabbed me by the arms and started pulling in different directions. And they're like, I need help. You need help me right away. Why isn't anyone helping me? And the first person to grab me, I just like stared at them and I was like, don't you fucking touch me. And if you do that again, we're like, I can't guarantee that you'll be safe, and like we'll probably have to call the police. And I just walked away because like we're not. I don't know why that person thought it was appropriate to like literally grab me and like try to pull me. Yeah. Let me see what else. For the computer vision thing, it's not maybe as simple as doing handbrake and then a script. So how it was working before, and I guess like lets you know how old some of the stuff in my research lab was. When I joined, we had a computer that was running DOS, and I think there is still a machine there running one piece of equipment that is still running DOS. So when I joined, we were recording. They had just converted from writing video to VHS onto DVD. So part of my job was to figure out how to convert those DVDs into actual video files. And then, probably not surprisingly, the computer that actually did all the ripping from the disc died. So I had to like figure out a way to convert that over into something else. It was pretty interesting. We had a lot of just like, that is legacy tech, right? Like we had a Mac G3 with a video capture card, like ripping stuff, like taking in a DVD player's feed and then trying to record it. And like one major accomplishment that I had was like, all I did was find a USB capture card. And like tried and basically convinced people that like, yes, the signal is different. It is still video that you can analyze. And we basically would take the video and compress it down in space into like, I think there's actually a Python library now, but it used to be all written in MATLAB. And I think it's published as like a soft matter library. But it's basically just converting these like circles and stuff into contrast detection. And then like you just like track the centroid of each like circle that you find. And you can do particle tracking and velocity tracking and that kind of stuff. Like honestly, it's pretty cool. I mean, if I had time to do it, I probably would still be doing it if I could, if there's like some meaningful job to get out of it. There's a lot of technical hurdles to jump over. One was that like we just didn't have enough resolution to get like extremely meaningful data. Like I had pointed out, like, well, if you do the math, once you convert the pixels into microns, like the slowest a thing can go is like basically like at the threshold of what we're trying to measure. So that's extremely difficult. So like the answers are to get like essentially better video camera. So like more resolution in terms of spatial and also temporal. So if we increase the frame rate and also increase the pixel pitch, or increase the number of pixels, we can just get a lot more data out of it. And that wasn't something I had mentioned that and tried to push for that for maybe a long time, and then I kept being told that that was the wrong answer. And then eventually my boss talked to her coworkers, her friends, who told her exactly that, and then she believed it. But at that point I was like, well, I'm defending, so I'm out of here. Let me see what else. Yeah, Amiibo is like they are actually figures. You can get, I think there's some like card Amiibo, but I've never had them. I think they're only usable in Animal Crossing. But yeah, like these things, like basically you can, with the Smash ones, you can store characters and custom controls in there. And like my controls for Smash are really messed up. Like I save Y and X as jump. And then for C-Stick, I have that permanently as like tilts. So like if someone tried to randomly play my character, then it's like they're going to lose a lot because like none of the controls make sense. And then when I try to play normal people's characters, it breaks my brain. And then trying to add all the custom things like takes forever. So like storing them into these things and just tapping them onto the NFC detector was like, wow, this is so much easier. Let me see. Yeah, my goals are literally lurking while staying healthy. Yeah. I was on a step goal team at Medicare, and like people were like, how are you hitting like 18 to 20,000 each day? I think like at one point I was doing 30, and because like it was because I was running like Tuesday, Thursday, I think I would run. So I was, in addition to hitting my step goal, I would just go on like a 3-mile run. And I was like, I went on camera one day and they're like, why are you moving? I'm like, oh, I'm on a treadmill. And they're like, oh, that makes sense. And they're like, how often do you use the treadmill? I'm like, anytime there's a meeting or this camera off and I am not actively contributing, I'm on the treadmill. Oh, hello, Alamilo. I am not Southeast Asian. It may be color temperature or something, but I am mixed Chinese, Japanese, Irish, Italian, actually. Yeah. Let me see what else is on here. Okay, and that looks like I finally caught up with chat. Let's see. What am I drinking? This is sparkling water with a lemon in it. It is only Monday. I may have... actually, I cooked dinner earlier today, and I pan-seared some chicken. And the thing I've been doing lately is making pan sauces out of anything that I sear. So my go-to deglazing liquid now is vermouth. And I may have poured myself a little vermouth and ice. But that was at dinner. Yeah. If you cook yourself, I have an extremely strong recommend for using vermouth. I think it's actually sweet vermouth, because I honestly don't know. I got it at Costco, and part of the reason why I get it for deglazing now is like I watched this like Food 52 YouTube video from a bartender, and he was very particular about vermouth. He said like once you open it, it basically just goes bad within like a day, and you can use it for other stuff, but it makes subpar cocktails. And I was like, well, one, I am not keeping a bottle of like a half bottle of vermouth just in case I want one cocktail, because then I still don't know what to do with the rest of it. And two, I am not gonna notice. I don't make cocktails that often, especially with vermouth. So at Costco, they had like a big like 750 milliliter bottle, and I was like, cool, sold. um, but because I will say that it does taste different, just like with wine. Once you open the bottle, after like a day, it like tastes a little off. Not off, but not as good. So like I've basically just like keep capping it, putting it in the fridge, and then whenever I want to deglaze the pan, I just use it. And I think on the cooking subreddit, people recommended using it, and it's really good. It's shockingly good. So if you cook and like you sear stuff and you're like, oh, what do I do with the fond that's left over and like it's still stuck on, etc., etc., throw some freaking vermouth and water in there, and then like a little oil and maybe herbs, and some butter to help emulsify the reduction. But it tastes amazing. The only time it didn't taste good was when I over seasoned the chicken I threw in there, so like the pan sauce was too salty. So yeah, the vermouth like adds a nice, like, it's sweeter than the red wine, and it somehow like still balances nicely even if you throw in a bunch of herbs. If you have it just plain, it tastes delicious. And even this one, I was honestly surprised. I pan-seared chicken and it kind of tasted like gravy, so it was interesting. It was like slightly more complicated gravy. So I think the biggest win though is like all that stuff that's like stuck on there and even looked a little burned on there, it like cleaned up super nice. So it was just a lot less work for me in the end. But yeah, yeah, binging with Babish is really cool. The other cooking YouTuber I like is Ethan Shablowski. So yeah, strong recommend for both of those. Yeah, and then plus, if you have vermouth in the house, it also means that you can make like really nice cocktails pretty easily. I think like I started making Manhattans and stuff, just when I want to have like a nicer drink. Yeah, and like I went for a long time with just not having vermouth, and I was like, well, I can't make these. Let me see what else. There was I just got something from, I got liquor at Costco that was interesting. Oh yeah, mine had Tokai, which is Hungarian wine, which I bought because like how often do you get to see Hungarian wine? I told my best friend who's Hungarian, and he was like, what? I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm just gonna buy it. I don't even know if it's any, like, if it's bad, whatever, but like I feel like if you see like exotic shit in Costco, you just kind of have to get it and try it. That has won several times for me. They had those like boba mochi things. Those were amazing. They had these strawberry yogurt covered pretzels, which were also very good. Coconut rolls were good. The only curiosity snack that has like crashed and burned super hard for me at Costco was they had durian wafers. And I was like, oh, sick. I've never had these. And then like I think I literally ate 4 of them and then I threw out the bag. The boba mochi was delicious. They had, yeah, it was bad. Like in terms of like I had to actively stop myself from eating them. Like I would like ration it. Like it was like you get 1 or 2 a day. That's it. But otherwise, like, and I took pictures and sent it to people in my like local Discord friend group, and they're like, oh yeah, those are really good. They're like way too good. Yeah, because it was mochi, and on the inside was like milk tea and like 1 boba, and it was delicious. I haven't seen it in Costco since then and maybe it's for the better because I would just grab it. Yeah. Let me see. What else is in here? And yeah, I think like for all the people saying sorry I went through that on Black Friday, that was yeah, it was an experience. I would say like it got worse over time. It was very strange. My first Black Friday was like people were like shockingly good, um, both employees and customers. And then the one that essentially just made me quit was just like I don't understand how these customers are being like such monsters to people. But yeah. Anyway, get back on track with what we were trying to do. Oh, right. So, what we were doing before was actually talking about. Wait, did I? I did. Okay, cool. I was like, why do I have my site open? And I was like, all right, I shared the link. Yeah. So, this is a project I've been working on. The idea for this actually came out before I started at that data science bootcamp in 2019. It's Melion, and it is eventually it will be a much better machine learning powered recipe recommender. The web app doesn't work, I'm pretty sure, unless like something happened and now it magically works again. Last time I ran it, Heroku was like, no, this doesn't work anymore. I think it's because it's relying on something on the back end that is deprecated and is a concern. It was a security problem. So Heroku said, after this date, we're gonna close all these libraries all these projects that. Oh, it is working. Okay, cool. I don't know what happened that day, but here we go. So Melion, what it does is like you put in the name of a dish that you really like. So let's say apple strudel. I'm just picking random things now. I'm actually kind of hungry. And that would say, let's say that's German. So you put in it. Oh, I forgot it does that. Apple strudel. So you put in the name of a dish that you like or are curious about. You put in the cuisine it's from. When you click Feed Me, it searches the Edamame API for 10 versions of the dish, and then takes all the ingredients of all 10 versions and makes like one aggregate ingredient vector. And then it compares the... That's broken. It compares the ingredient vector to a scraped database that's basically stored on AWS. And it will give you back 5 recipes that are most similar via cosine similarity, but they're all from different cuisines. Okay, it was just really slow. So it's really slow. Basically, it's saying for apple strudel, which I don't think I spelled correctly, actually. It's saying that the top 5 most similar are grilled mahi-mahi with tamarind, roast lamb with marionberry pecan crust, fried yuca with Peruvian cheese sauce, lamb chops with artichokes and rosemary, and cilantro stuffed chicken with poblano chili sauce. So if this scraped database had a picture, it would actually load the thumbnail for you, but I think something may be just wrong. So this is like, I'm actually surprised it really works. It should also show what the similarity is, which like max is at 1 and minimum is 0. But if there's something that you really like, you can just click it, and then it will display the recipe for you, and it's all from Epicurious. Other things that broke were Epicurious went to a paywall. So like this used to be free and now it's not, which is unfortunate. So all these things like are things I want to fix or try to find a solution for. The Edamame API, because I don't control it, did things that were just like super random in my opinion, and I just couldn't figure out how they were working. So in all honesty, my favorite thing to demo before was buffalo wings. And we put, American, and in the past it actually gave me Thai and Vietnamese dishes, and I was like, this is amazing. Like it gave me a clay pot dish, which I think is still on here, chicken clay pot. Yeah. So like I looked at the dev version, the dev branch of this, because it actually gives you like much more. It gives you all the numbers in terms of each ingredient vector. And it was fascinating because it was like, oh, it's actually when it matches on this, it's matching on chicken, garlic, vinegar, lemon, and what was it? I think just butter. And I was like, oh, I don't know why I never saw that. Like, even though the ingredients are prepared entirely differently, like it's matching on the keywords instead of the actual structure, and stuff. But like earlier, Radar, when you were talking about like the words were like the text we're getting is too short to get stuff, I had this exact same problem here because I was trying to actually in because I was at boot camp and because we had some time, they told us like our cohort elected to skip the last week project so that we could get a head start on our capstone project. So for me, that was Melion. And because we got that time back, that meant like our instructors were like, you know what? You guys should just go for broke and try some crazy shit that like you don't know if you're going to deliver on time. So like it could be your MVP +1. So my very first thing I tried to do is actually get a deep networking on this, and try it with Word2Vec. And turns out when you have lists of ingredients, your longest individual sentence or each individual word might just be like 4 words long, right? Like let's say one of your ingredients is extra virgin olive oil. In the normal NLP like structure, that is a sentence. It's just extra virgin olive oil. So there was nothing to really glean from putting it into a much more complicated form of like information retrieval or word conversion. So like my first couple versions of this were like awful because it was like I have no idea what it's actually getting at. My friend suggested like sending this through a continuous bag of words model, but making the continuous just one. And I was like, okay. I haven't tried that yet because like that's a way to feed into Word2Vec, and I just like turns out like when this was working better before, ironically when it was like the MVP, when it was working better, and I would say it's because of the Edamame API. When it was working better, the TF-IDF version of this was super cool already, and because this is like the end product of this is just like, does it satisfy my curiosity? Like basically, does it show things that I think are fairly close or at least interesting, and do I want to make any of these things? Like that turned out was my metric for success. Matching like a perfect match was not something I considered to be a success. And it turns out like because the recipes being searched for against the database weren't actually in the database, it was impossible to get an exact match anyway. So yeah, this was like, I don't know, I have a lot of fun with this. The inspiration for this was like one time I was cooking, it was taco night, and I just started cooking stuff, and I went to go grab the cumin from the cupboard, and then we were all out, so I just grabbed garam masala powder, because it was like, well, that's mostly cumin, and then I just tossed it in there and it tasted totally different. So I was like, okay, well, how many times can you do that? Like basically you just have the same ingredients and you make something completely different with just like a slight change. So that's how I ended up with this. I'll say like the original idea I had was like, I absolutely love tacos. And I really wanted to know what are tacos and other cuisines. And turns out that project is extremely hard. Because in doing research for that, I learned that what we associate with tacos is a tortilla around a filling, and that is the dish. So like most people, like when you ask for like chicken tacos, you're still mostly talking about the form that the food is delivered in. However, when you try to compare to other cuisines, like for, I think Indian food, it might be like roti, that is just the wrapper. So like that would essentially just be that's really comparing against the tortilla. And then for Chinese food, there you can get like the pork buns, which is like with like a soft rice poofy wrapper around like pork belly, but like that's also not really called like the overall thing. It doesn't have like a different name. So that turned out to be really complicated, and I was like going over that with my coach, and I was like, I feel like this starts turning into a computer vision problem. And he was like, yeah, you don't want to do that. You don't have enough time for that. Or money, it turns out. Like when my one guy in my cohort was trying to essentially make a better deep fake. He was saying he was going to make a better deep fake detector, and basically all like he didn't get along with a lot of us, but like one of the things I tried to tell him from a very kind way was, man, I know you're smart, I know you work very hard, but you're trying to make a deepfake detector, and I want to point out that Facebook may have thousands of people working on this who have been doing computer vision for like decades, and they still cannot make the perfect deepfake detector. And your ambition was to, by yourself, having just entered this field, make a better one that they did in like 3 weeks. So spoiler alert, his project didn't work, but like he did say that like I think in one weekend just to train one rough version of his model, I think he spent like $50 on GPUs on AWS. And I was like, all right. And he was like, it was a little awkward because he started asking our coaches for like, is there credit I can use, or like a way I can get money back so I can keep training this? And I was like, no, man, that's not how this works. But yeah, so rolled back, like eventually I would like to mix in some of those things. Like I kind of wanted a thing that was like, it would also try to assign a difficulty to whatever dish you're making. Also try to compare like, maybe you're really good at making beef stew. How about we try something else? Like what if you use short rib instead of chuck meat? Or what if you use the same ingredients but do a completely different prep method? So eventually, hopefully we'll get there, but I do need more recipes in here. Melion, unfortunately, right now only has like 20,000 recipes, I think, and like 2,000 ingredients, but those ingredients are basically unigrams. And because my computer at the time wasn't capable of handling bi or trigrams, and this Heroku app, I think, is also not capable of handling that because it drastically increases the model size and RAM. So there's a whole lot of like trying to figure out where this is going to go and what are the underlying architecture changes. So I think we can actually look at some of the old code and I can rip it apart based off of what I did before. So basically, let's see. Yeah, okay, so I'm already unhappy at my own code. So at the top, I've got a multi-line comment that basically describes the purpose, which I think is okay, but it doesn't necessarily follow the stuff I would prefer to do with it. For reference, if you are, my go-to for writing Python code is always the Google style sheet. Yeah, actually, so Radar, and for other people, if you're doing NLP stuff, so the way bigrams and trigrams usually works is it just takes all of your words and it just makes combinations out of them. So with unigrams, one word, if you have 6 words, you get 6 different columns in your data set, essentially, in your data frame, essentially. So if it's like, oh, I don't know, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, right? Like you would have 1 for each of those words, minus stop words. So like get rid of the. If you're doing trigrams or bigrams, it will take every combination, like every connected combination of 2 words. So it like really increases how many columns you end up adding to your data frame. And same with trigrams. So at work, that Form 2567 project I was showing before, Whenever I tried to run this on my local work laptop with 16 gigs of RAM, it crashed it so hard it rebooted the computer every single time. And I looked it up after, and it was because like I think it eventually needed like 28 gigs of memory to run this. So not even all that complicated. All I did was like, I want uni to trigrams and include all of them. So like things that could have been fixed were like adding a spell checker, but that probably also would have drastically increased the compute time and maybe would not have freed up that much memory. But yeah, like it was insane. And like also insane was that it didn't error out to tell me that it was like I'm running out of RAM. I think like I kept wondering why I would start a job and then I'd come back and the computer would be at the login screen. And then like one day I just like started the job and I just didn't move. I was like, I'm not gonna make coffee this time. I'm just gonna watch to see what happens. And I think in the command line it actually said like memory problem. And I was like, okay, what is the problem? And then the next line was like out of memory, and then it would just hard reset, like not even give me the option or not even kill the process. It would just be like, no, you're done. Yeah, like I guess it technically threw an error, but then also would just keep trucking, and it was just like, I'm just gonna reboot the computer. And I was like, thanks scikit-learn. So yeah, that was interesting. And like the fix we had was like, okay, well, our contractor was like, do you actually need that? And I was like, yes, because we don't know. All right, good night, Ghibli. Actually, I should probably also wrap things up soon. Man, we didn't even do much code. I was just excited to see so many people rating and chatting. Yeah, so like the contractor was like, do you actually need that? And I was like, yeah, I mean, why wouldn't we need it? We're looking at phrases. Like maybe I could do just bigrams. He suggested like, can you split them? So you have like one training uni, one training bi, and one training trigrams, then link them all together. And you can, but also like, I don't really know if that fixes the problem, because at some point you do have to combine them all together. But yeah, like, I think that's right. Eventually it needed 28 gigs of memory, and then the columns were, I'm trying to remember, 1.2 million. There are 1.2 million columns in this particular, like this project. Yeah, 1.2 million terms. It was pretty crazy. I like, this data set is big. It's not even that big. We were getting to the point where this is public data, so there's stuff that like when you actually look at it, it'll tell you straight up like this data has been removed due to privacy. So there's a bunch of words that are just not included in this vocabulary. So like this was only going to get bigger, and we already like maxed out some of the resources that we had. So NLP just starts becoming crazy. This, I think, probably if I stayed working there and we got our architecture working, I think it would get to the point where this starts relying on word to vec instead of like just a straight up essentially bag words model. But for Melion, for right now, with just the ingredients, I think a bag of words works fine. Yeah, in terms of the code, like, because I wanted to focus on an MVP and because the number of cuisine types is so limited, like I ended up being able to do like really dumb if then statements to try to do some filtering. So like to try to collapse, there are several categories that basically only had like one or two recipes, so that obviously was not going to be good. So like Southeast Asian and Korean, and I think like sushi had literally one entry in the database, and I was like, okay, simplify these so that it's a little bit more like we can, if I want to fit a training, like a classification thing, then I need to actually have these like come up a little bit. Otherwise, like I would never fit anything to like Southeast Asian. So yeah, let me see what else. So I wrote this custom function to do some of this processing and filtering, and then like this is after doing a lot of EDA in a notebook to like test a bunch of stuff. And and basically each function has like an explanation as to what it's trying to do and what the goal is. And then if you follow the Google style sheet, you'll know that like this is actually not written correctly because like you're also supposed to have like a like args, returns, that sort of thing in the top, which like that's stuff I want to change and fix. Same, and then here, like for some reason, I just dropped comments explaining what's going on. So I know what these mean because I've used them so many times, but also like, how dare I do that to whoever looks at my code after? That's really bad of me to do that. I know that this is creating a term frequency inverse document frequency vectorizer, which basically this means it does count vectorization, the term frequency inverse document frequency thing after. It's taking stop words from fed in list if you have a custom list, which I did because like I actually went through here and said like, okay, well, what's not helpful for this data set? And that might actually be in the .gitignore. So that this actually might be broken now. Let me see. Where's food stop words? So it is not in source. It should be. Okay, cool. So yeah, like I did this by hand. I went through and like looked at all the terms and was like, what helps and what doesn't. And for this first MVP, like none of these helped. A lot of these were brands. So like I just got rid of a bunch of these. This took like honestly a really long time. And my coach tried to make me feel better about it by saying like, well, ImageNet needed someone to label all of their data as to what's a cat and what's a dog. So you could maybe make something like that for food, and that'd be cool. And I was like, thanks, coach. Yeah, this was a lot of podcasts and a lot of just tedious mundane work. And that may not even be helpful anymore. So that's okay. Agile software development. But yeah, so like we are taking that stop words list, looking for a minimum document frequency. So it has to appear. See, I already struggled with like trying to remember what this thing is. I think this is how many documents can this show up in before below this number of documents do we drop the term. And it's so if an ingredient only shows up once, then like we're not going to use it. This is a regex pattern that's like, okay, I'm not even going to pretend I know what this regex pattern means because I know I threw it into regex 101. I think this is like you need at least 2 characters, and it has to be alphabetical. So if it's a numerical, like I had like ingredients for like let's say 10 milligrams or something, like that's not actually an ingredient, that's a unit. So those shouldn't be included in the column of ingredients. So if it was 2 characters or less, drop it. Or wait, sorry. If it's alphabetical, as in no numbers in the ingredient, and at least 2 characters, it can be included. Otherwise, just drop it. And then I used I think a custom lematizer, maybe not custom, to actually like get essentially the root of each word, and that helped reduce the data set overall too. So that way things like if you had chop, chops, chopped, those would technically all be 3 different words, but if you lematize it, it should just turn into chop, and that just simplifies things. Let me see, because like for tense probably doesn't exactly matter for the thing I'm using it for, but if we were to investigate these steps, then it probably does matter. And I think in these stop words, I think I actually removed this is a rant I had when I was looking at the data and like trying to scrape different food websites. I hate it when a recipe says like, oh, this is only going to take like 10 minutes. And then you look at the ingredients and it's like, okay, minced garlic, chopped onion, chopped veggies, and like all that stuff. And it's like, okay, it takes 10 minutes after you do all the mise en place and prep, right? So if you have to mince garlic and you're mincing like 6 cloves of garlic, that may take you a very long time. If you're cubing potatoes and you want them all to be like a half inch around, and you've got 3 pounds of potatoes, that is also going to take you like a long time. So that takes you probably more than 10 minutes already. So like I hated it when recipes actually told you like they put the prepped ingredient in the ingredient list when that should have been an ingredient with a step. And then that's like a more honest way of actually describing how to make the dish that they're talking about. So I did the lematizer to say like, are there any verbs in this ingredient? Because like if there are, drop them, because like they're not useful for this particular use case. And also like, it stopped me from getting mad at different recipes where it's like, why is chiffonaded herbs in here? And if you don't know what chiffonade means, I think it's very finely... I don't even use chiffonade. Yeah, so it's like very fine ribbons of stuff. Yeah. Oh, right, we're looking at code. So yeah. And this all basically goes in like a waterfall, if I remember right. So like... import the files, filter out the cuisines. Okay, yeah, so prepare database is like a helper function, and then it stores all the results onto a job lib that can be called later. And then these, like, this function actually does the importing of the job libs, and then tries to do the prediction. I'm scrolling through this kind of fast, I know, mostly because, like, who was Veronica? I think it was your stream earlier. Someone said like, does anyone look at their code from earlier and just hate it? I think I'm having that moment for sure now, because I'm like, yo, there's missing comments all over the place, and like some basic explanation as to what's going on, because like this particular virtual environment, I think I have to go through the this I think used pip, so that means I would have to read this, and if I really wanted to repeat everything so it's the same as much as possible, I'd have to get all of these installed, and I think this doesn't even have... Yeah, notably the Python version's not on here, so like I don't even know what version of Python this previously used. Probably 3.6. Yeah. There's a difference between taste and texture when you garnish with... Oh yeah, for sure. But for this like MVP, because I had to roll this out, like for capstone projects at Flatiron, you're expected to roll out for data scientists, you're expected to roll out a full stack web app in like... You don't have to, but like that's really the most impressive thing, is like you roll out a full stack web app in like 3 weeks. So it's... to get the nuance of like whether or not it's a garnish or whether it's like incorporated raw or something like that was like not something that was going to work in this particular instance. But like obviously these are things that like I definitely remembered, and I wanted to have things that were like in down, like part of what we learned was like there's always going to be a trade-off between what you want and what you can finish in a sprint. Yeah, this was a boot camp. Their job placement was okay. I think like I say okay because like you have to remember the timing in which I attended and graduated, and I forget if I said this when I was talking about my experience at Flatiron before, but I graduated November 2019. So I came back, started the job search going into the holiday, and then the pandemic happened. So it took me kind of a long time actually to get my first job working for Medicare. It was very interesting. Their job placement stuff, they tried to help as best as they could, but like I actually remember there was like one day when the shutdown really became official, like everyone was shutting down. In one day, I think I got like 50 emails from different companies just saying like the position you applied for no longer exists. And yeah, that was a kind of a rough day. um, all right, good night, Aaron. Aaron, thank you for the raid. I really appreciate it. And I guess also, I think I know how to do this. I'm still fairly new to doing all this streaming. Yeah, I actually really appreciate the raid. And it was really cool to finally see your stream. I kept hearing about you, and I was like, I think I've only seen like maybe 5 minutes of his stream. And then I looked at yours today, and I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, and I was like, let me work alongside him. It's fine. But yeah, what was I gonna say? Yeah, so the Flatiron job placement stuff, like they had they gave you a career coach, and you're supposed to work with them. They really like try to help you brainstorm ways to do your approach when you're applying to places. And they also had a career placement group that tried to find me different things to apply to. I would say honestly everyone tried their best, but with the way the pandemic worked, it was like, you know, stuff was bad. The Medicare position I got, they actually, I don't even remember applying, which is crazy. Like they honestly took so long to go through the whole process that I just like completely forgot that I applied there. And I straight up, I think it took them like 4 weeks before, or sorry, not 4 weeks, like 4 to 5 months. I don't know what happened. But like all of a sudden one day it was like, hey, your application made it through. And I was like, oh, okay. But also like on my job search, I have a spreadsheet for this, but I stopped recording after I had like, I think 1,200 interactions with people or job applications, because it was like, frankly, getting disappointing. And two, it was just like a lot of work. And then once I forgot to blog 1 week, even though I did 2 the week before. And when I forgot to blog that 1 week, they're like, you're no longer tuition waiver eligible. And I was like, well, I don't really feel like recording this shit anymore. So yeah. But otherwise, like Flatiron at the time, they were talking about like they had like 90 something % of their graduates all get a job within like 6 weeks or something. A lot of them end up going for, oh no, the tuition waiver was like, if you what were the exact terms? It was, you have to have 8 reach outs / job applications to entirely new people and companies. You have to have at least 5 public Git commits. You have to blog at least once a week. I forgot what the other one was, but like you had to do that every single week. So the for me, the easiest was the job applications, because like you can just like cold apply to places, but they really don't help you. So I think they ended up getting more specific, where like you had to actually talk to a person. But like trying to schedule all that and like doing at least 8 a week is like pretty hard, especially like when everyone's looking for a job. And then the blogs, I personally thought the blogs were really hard because like, let me see. My old portfolio site has this, and I'm trying to move it over to Buenos Dias. But like my Medium, when I was talking about stuff, like I was trying to do this all the time. And for Melion, I did 3 blogs, right? And each of them is like fair. Like this is probably the shortest one, and it's already like pretty long. So like, I don't know how people generated like good ones every week. Oh yeah, and actually now you can see a screenshot. Like this is what the dev results look like. Like this is what the one hot encoded recipe, and then this is with the TF IDF, I believe. So like it looked super different. But like this Melion post was only supposed to be 1 blog, and like I just like couldn't work, in my opinion. Like I wrote all of this and I was like editing it and like checking it for grammar and all this kind of stuff, and like making sure my sources worked correctly, and like I frankly thought it was a lot of work, and I had like a very minimum level of quality before I could just like hit publish. Or I had a threshold for quality before I could hit publish, and I was like, are other people just like not caring? Let me see. The blog can be wild. Far cry from writing 1,400 words and talking about something versus like, oh, look. Yeah, exactly. So like, and I have like really dumb posts like that. Like one time this one, really dumb post. And I wrote about this because I went crazy with like trying to get things working my LinkedIn profile. And eventually I found that like, oh, there's like a whole, so you know when you share a link and you get like a preview in the link, that was like something that like Facebook's Open Graph protocol actually specified. And I had a lot of trouble trying to figure out like, how do you get this metadata working? So I ended up just writing this like really stupid like blog post, in my opinion stupid, because it was like a lot of work and it's so simple. So like I just threw this up here because like, well, I hope this is helpful for other people, because like losing that aspect of control on links that you post was like kind of driving me crazy. I just was like, okay, when I learned about this, like I feel like other people should learn. But this is like not necessarily a hard one. Even this one probably took me like a day to edit, because I was like, okay, I want to make sure that all the links work and the grammar makes sense and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Let's see. I really love spicy food. I do not have it here, but I had like a whole library of hot sauces, and for a while I was spending way too much money at here. If you like hot sauces, I at one point like may have owned like most of these sauces. Pomegranate, lemon, pistachio. I actually need to order more hot sauces, so like this is not good for me to go here right now. Yeah, I'm hoping that like on my new site, which I know I've pitched it, I've at least mentioned it like two times, but my new site you can check out here. I'm gonna try to put actually like meaningful posts, and then I also will share like all stream notes and stuff. And there's gonna be a lot of notes today. Probably skip all the desk tour stuff. I'll just put that we did a desk tour and hopefully everyone had fun. Yeah. Let's see. Your blog's a bit in depth. Debian packaging. Is it Debian or Debian? I've pronounced it both ways. Very long post which ended with, so I read the man page finally. Yeah, it happens. I think like have you done time series forecasting? When I first used this library, if you're doing time series forecasting, when I first used this library, their documentation sucked. It was so bad. They had the same thing as Statsmodels, where when you read the Python documentation, it just like didn't include all the modules and stuff that you're reading. And like I was like, what I was actually doing when I was using this before was I was reading the R documentation and then just converting it over. And like I think when I started using this, they actually like didn't even tell you what libraries and stuff you needed to install as a prerequisite, because I think it needs CRAN. So like you could technically try to install this and it just wouldn't work because you're just missing stuff for the back end. But since then, Facebook or Meta or whatever, they've like really improved their documentation a lot, so it doesn't just like suck. You're doing it on Fedora. Refactor the Python for Debian packaging on Fedora. Oh boy. I am curious to read that. I'm not gonna lie. One of the things I wanted to write for Buenos Dias was like how I actually got my dev environment set up, because like I am not totally sure how common it is to run this like Windows subsystem for Linux with ASDF for Python version management, and then Poetry for virtual environment management. and like I really like it. And then also like having VS Code and like all this stuff. Oh, also I run like Oh My Z Shell in here, so like you can do things like you can add custom autocomplete, so like git branch. So like now you see all the branches that are on here, and it's in a, you can just start typing things out. What else is in here? Like the way the terminal is actually laid out is like custom. So it's probably easier to see here, but like you see the folder hierarchy, the git branch I'm on, and then I guess like time needed for this prompt, and it's also running, telling you that this is the virtual environment it's running. I really like Oh My Z Shell. I had Bash before and it's fine, but I think like I really like the customization. So like, yeah, Z Shell is probably fine, but like with Oh My Z Shell, you can add themes, and that's what's really, I think, saved a bunch of time for me. So I think this is. What theme are we on? Power level 10K. So that's the theme I'm doing, and it just like made things a lot faster. So you can probably figure out a way to get all these things working without using a theme, or like using a different theme, but this is just, for me, it was just a lot easier. And then pretty sure I don't think there's anything really all that secret in the Z Shell RC. Yeah, you can see like added custom plugins for Git, Z Shell syntax highlighting, Z Shell auto suggestion, ASDF, and poetry. Yeah, so that's that. Yeah, you can send it to me. I am not sure if it will go through in chat because I may have disabled links from other people. But you can whisper it to me at least, and I'll put it in the stream notes, if you don't mind. But yeah, I kind of do want to write instructions on how to do at least the virtual environment stuff. I was trying to help people do that before, but I think people like use PyCharm and stuff, and it's really very different. Is it dash whisper? Yeah, I think it's a whisper. I don't know if it's a. If you're in the Twitch client or web page, you can like, it's up at the top. It didn't autocomplete. Let's see. So if you're on the Twitch website, you can click like at the very top, near the top right, it's like whispers, and then you can search for people. So you can search for my name and then whisper me there. Or I could actually just do it here. Oh yeah, you just sent it to me. Cool. All right. Yeah, I'll take a look, and then I'll probably just add it to the stream notes. Found it. I was like, found it with my hell. Yeah, okay, that's also applicable. Yeah, okay, cool. All right. Man, we've been going for 2 hours and 40 minutes, and that somehow dropped 961 frames. So it is 1:10 where I am, and I think I started stream saying like, oh, I want to try to like wake up early. So I think I should try to find someone to raid. So I will wrap up a bunch of stuff that we talked about today, and then just put it in the stream notes, and then hopefully make more progress. Maybe I'll even just work on it off stream or something. But I do, as you can see, like I'm really excited to be working on Melion. It's a lot more interesting in my opinion than trying to convert that textbook over. Which like is also really good, and if people want to work on it, like that's actually a really nice way to learn how to use like stats models and stuff. But like I don't know, I just wanted to work on a project, and something that like has been gnawing at me, even when I was working at Medicare, like I still kept thinking about Melion, and people kept like referencing it because they're like, oh yeah, he made this like recipe recommender, and that was like how I got introduced to people. It's like, oh, this is what data scientists can do. I'm like, yeah, it is. It's like totally super cool. Got to relearn stats. Glorified rebel lord. Let's see. Okay, who is on? What song is playing? Seasons by Stan Forby. I'm like vibing a little to this. That's nice. Let's see. Maybe not software and game dev. Is there science and technology? And of course, if y'all have people that you recommend that I raid, feel free to let me know. Let's see. Why is there no... Oh, here we go. I'm looking at science and technology channel right now, or category right now. That's a weird one. I'm gonna harp on the same like... I know Nikwan Datasci talked about this, who unfortunately is no longer streaming. But I don't really get the whole software and game dev, science and technology sort of split, and especially as a data scientist, because we don't really fit in either of those. So yeah, I'm always flattered when people drop by for whatever reason. But yeah, it would be nice if there's like a maybe easier way to find each other, because like a lot of software and game dev people, when I see what they're doing, it's like, well, I kind of want to see data science. But yeah, not that what game devs are doing isn't interesting. It's just very different. So yeah. Also, I'm like looking at game software and game dev right now. I'm like, oh no, this stuff's like very cool. It's just the cosine similarity is low. Oh yeah, I've never seen them talk about algorithm dev. That does sound really cool. Let me see. Auroral Games is on. I've rated them a few times. I kind of want to go to somebody else. There's a VTuber doing a Vroid model, which sounds kind of cool, but I don't know what that is. Eric Livermore. This is the hardest part of being the late night raid, right? Like finding, or the late night streamer is finding someone else to raid, because basically everyone's asleep or they do not speak English. And like, I don't mind when I think it's cool when people speak other languages. It's just that like I want to know what the streamer is doing before I send people there, because I would feel bad if it was like, oh, they're like, I don't know. And okay, let me also look for Cyberzyne. That that streamer, I will look them up too. Artificial. But they may not be on. I see there's an artificial with two L's, but they speak Russian, and the last time I streamed was 3 months ago. So I don't. Oh, that's YouTube. My bad. I should have fully read everything that you sent over. That one's user error. Okay. That one I will put in the stream notes. Looks pretty interesting. Uh, all right. Screw it. Let's raid Eric Livermore. All right. Um, all right. So let's get this raid started. Um, all right. That was a fun late night stream. But also I gotta stop rating. I gotta stop streaming late at night, especially when I get the new job, which starts when I forget if I mentioned, but I start at Niantic June 1st, and they will probably not appreciate me staying up until essentially. Like, I will probably end up being awake until 2 a.m., and I don't think they would like that when I try to go to work the next day. But yeah, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for, if you were in the raid, thank you for sticking around. I hope to see all of y'all around. And thank you for all the new follows and stuff. Oh my gosh, Steam Griffing, thank you for the sub. Thank you. That's like 5. That's honestly, that like I'm counting because it's like it's a lot for me. I got affiliate status like not even 2 weeks ago, I think. So all of this is like super brand new to me, and I'm like obviously still trying to figure out my commands and stuff for doing Twitch stuff. So I really appreciate like bits, follows, subs, anything. And yeah, hope to grow as a streamer and hope I'm very helpful for people, and to see what all of you are up to. But yeah, okay, so we are going to raid Eric Livermore in like 7 seconds. So it was nice to see all of you today. Hope to see you soon, and maybe I should be able to stream. Oh, I don't normally stream Tuesday.
Raid! Thank you. Hello. You caught me at a boring time. I hope I'll make this more interesting shortly. Just trying to figure out where I went wrong. How about now? I had something that was working, and then I just like restructured some code, and then it just stopped working. So I'm trying to figure out. Okay, now it's wrong but working, not crashing. Yeah, that's true. And now it should be right and not crashing. Nope. How about now? Oh, I guess that might actually be right because I changed this. thing I did. I move that up here. No, I don't want to do that. I'll do it a little more in pieces. Okay, so what if we move this into here? And then we do, I guess I can take that from over here. Yeah, I don't think I'll see any roaches crawl across the screen here. Call a doctor if I do. There, and we'll temporarily disable that, and then we need to say set size. And where do we do that? Does that use, what does that use from the front? It uses the platform data, and it uses nothing more. So we should just be able to do that here. And let's try it. Does this still, will it blend? Yes. So what if we move this? What's the next step? Do this reset function here. Reset, and we'll call it here. And we'll call it here. And then we'll make sure to set this. Crash. So that is what kills it. Oh yeah, then I need to not do that. So that still works. So why does it crash if I reset here? What the Does that have anything to do with anything? Probably not. I am going insane. Why would it fail if... Oh, maybe this needs to be... How does this work? So sorry, I'm just concentrated here. Let me catch up with chat. I am doing not really procedural generation, but I do have some procedural stuff. So like my editor, my level editor, I kind of put the structure in and then some code runs through and places. Okay, you said you want grass here. Well, I'll plant some grass and I'll some randomization. The grid is very much temporary. This is just a grid to see where I am, and let's choose different. And then there, when I'm in the editor here, I guess I can actually. And then when I run into the game, there isn't a grid here. What if I say place a ramp here? I have to put in so here, do like this, and then it puts in some stairs for what is a ramp here. So that's kind of procedural generation, but not quite. I can put in foliage. Let's put some grass here, save, and then we have some. Oh, I placed that too high, but yeah. Put it on the ground. So we have some grass, or whatever that is, abstract grass. What language is it? It is C++. It's quite C-like C++, but it is C++. I actually quite like C, but I do think there are a few nice features in C++. So I do use a C++ compiler, but generally the code looks more like C. So what is going on? If I call this too early, we die? Why? What? Why would that? Why would that have anything to do with anything? So I wonder if it's this call somehow breaks. So the rec pack target, but that has to be updated. I guess it doesn't. It's only based on the glyph texture width.